this, everyone. We've known all along.
We've known all along. Been waiting for this moment, though.
I know. But also, like, I was kind of sad to, like, share it.
Really? That's such an
I
interesting
know,
experience.
because
Why?
I wanted to share so badly, like, since the
Yeah.
beginning, and then all of a sudden when it became time, I was like, "But it's been so fun that this is, like, ours."
Mhm.
Like, and, like, the only people that know are the closest people in my life, and, like,
Yeah.
some people that I was running into because 'cause I'm showing now, but, like and, like, it's been so nice just having this little bubble, but at the same time, like, now, like, Eddie and I were sitting on the couch the other day where it's just, like, we just keep looking at each other, we're like, "Oh my god, it's real." Like, we have a
Yeah.
house, we're, like, engaged, we have a baby. I'm, like, talking to my dad the other day, I'm like, "Oh my" that happened in, like, what, a span of 6 months?
Like a blink
Like
of an eye, literally a blink of an eye.
yeah,
It's so crazy.
literally.
Oh
I
my
know.
gosh.
I'm like, "Pre-housewife era, careful what you wish for, y'all." Careful. Goes quick.
Goes real quick.
Goes
Fleeting
real quick.
season. But you know what I
Yeah.
love is like, yeah, there is that grieving of that season of like just being internal with it and it just being you guys really because
Yeah.
there is something that shifts when you share it, which is
Yeah.
beautiful, right? Because now you can really assume the identity, whereas I know before you felt like you were like half of yourself. But on the flip side, you forfeit kind of that like that sweet sacredness
Yeah.
of it just being you guys in your close inner circle.
Yeah. And, like, all
Yeah.
of the craziness that is pregnancy, like, thank goodness preparing my business for it, but, like, everything else was like, you can prepare your business, but, like, the identity that you shift through, like, I still haven't my feet are not on the ground with it at all.
That's so wild. What stage do you feel like you're at? And what do you mean by the identity shift? Let's like break it down for people around like what you're noticing and where you feel like you're at along that.
Yeah, also, hi, guys, we missed you. Um,
Let's just
just
dive
jump
right in.
straight in. It's a segment.
Welcome back to Unplugged.
Anyways,
You guys know by now. This is
just
the
jump right in.
segment that Laura and I do to let you guys in on the behind the scenes of our lives, the high performer brain. And most of the time, we just dive straight in with deep questions. We go into this being like, let's just catch up, girl chat.
Yeah.
And then we're like sobbing or
Or we
crying,
talk about
laughing,
chicken.
or we talk about chicken. So you're along for the ride. Thank you for being here. If you have missed us, we've missed you a lot.
Mhm.
And I feel like we both lived 5 lifetimes since the last time we sat down to record, which such is life. So we're here to catch you up on everything and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
All
The
right,
life
back to the
lesson.
deep questions.
The deep question, what is the identity that like, the shift? I haven't landed on it yet. It's been a big thing that, I've been the savage. I've been on my own since I was 16. I've built everything from the ground up. I literally built my life. And I've been the provider, the protector, the leader in my life for so long. And it's so interesting. Like, we just went to this huge conference. It's my favorite conference of the year. And I can't keep up. Like, networking is so important, like being at the lunches, at the dinners, at the after parties, of the things. And like, I just literally, like, I have to be at a choice point where, like, of course I can push myself. I'm an insane human being that can always go for, like, the biggest marathon sprint of her entire life. But, like, I have this tiny human that is now the main focal point, and I struggle with it. And the amount of times, like, bless my fiance, he has helped me with so much of this because he just constantly brings me back to what is the main priority right now. I'm like, a healthy baby. But at the same time, I'm like, but
Yeah.
my business is my baby and like my things and my identity and playing with my girls and like going out and like, traveling and doing all the things that I love. It's not that I have to give it up, but like I genuinely can't push my body in the same way I'm so used to doing. And it's like this, I've been on this journey, my listeners know this, of finding my feminine for so long. And it's like I've just been catapulted into
You have no
it. And I'm just, it's really, really hard. It's really hard. Pregnancy is one of the most vulnerable experiences I haven't needed anyone in my life. I want people in my life. I haven't needed anyone in my life. And I like genuinely need my husband. Like, I like really need Eddie because I can't do a lot of things and I can't emotionally support myself in the way that I needed it. And I haven't had that. Like, and that to me, especially because Eddie and I are so
beautiful.
new to each other, like, it's essentially a stranger I'm still getting to know on this beautiful journey that's just like collapsing time in this beautiful vortex that I continually am stuck in. And it's like, but, like, to need someone like that and,
Yeah.
like, the pressure that's on him and the pressure that's on like, it's just a new vulnerable arena
I
that I myself am stepping into and him, and so it's interesting.
it's so exciting, but it's wild. Like most of the time, we've talked about this before, it's like most of the time in relationship, when it's been growing for a while, you have the gift of time.
Yeah,
And you guys haven't necessarily had the gift of time. You've had a different kind of time. You've had
yeah,
turbocharged time.
literally.
You've had like, let's do all of the things all at once and just like throw ourselves into the fire. And so to witness you guys figure your way through that is a really cool experience. And also for you to be in the middle of like probably the biggest identity shift of your life up to date and really in that surrender and like fighting it a little bit along the way. What a season.
Yeah, I know.
I can't even
It's beautiful,
fathom
and I'm
it.
just thankful that you're here. Like, you keep me sane.
Mm,
Like, I was at the conference and I was sitting here and I was like, "I'm just so thankful for Steph."
I love you. I feel like we both
I
had
love
that
you.
realization when we were gone.
Yeah. How are
Yeah.
you? What is new?
Um,
Catch me up. I feel like you've been, like, having this whole journey, and then I'm like, "What's going on?" And you're like, "I'll tell you on the podcast." And I'm like, "But, like, can you
I
tell
was
me
like,
now?"
save it for the podcast because we usually talk
Yeah.
like all the time, and then we'll like catch up before the podcast, and then we'll be like, what do we want to talk about on the podcast? But I was like,
Yeah.
let's just do all of it all in one because it's more fun and fresh. And all of that to say, I was gonna say something else.
I was so ready for you to go, "I'm
I
pregnant too."
Oh my God, could you imagine?
Like,
Someone said that because we just made a post on Instagram saying like officially, I mean, it's
yeah.
already been in the works for months, but officially that Nolan and I are partners at Deep River Jewelry. And so we had a few people message us be like, "Is it a baby?" Because Nolan just posted on his story like it's official without any context and the photo. And I was like, no, not yet. We're not married. Like, we're not. It's so funny though, witnessing you in this season. Oh, what I was gonna say is like I love and I'm so grateful that you get to go through this before me so selfishly. Like I'm grateful that I get to be a solid rock in the fact that like my hormones are not changing. So it's like
Yeah.
there's one thing within your life that's not really changing, and that's my friendship and also probably my state of mind, unless you're talking to me in like late luteal phase. And it's just both of us are in a deep sea,
It's a fact.
not knowing where to go. But
It's a
I'm
fact.
so grateful to be that and also to witness you in this season because I learned so much from you. It's like I've always had the knowing that that identity shift, also because I've had the privilege of witnessing other women through it, but not on as intimate of a level as I've gotten to witness you through it. And it is wild because I don't know myself, but I can imagine how freaking intense it is. I'm just waiting for the moment. And then you're going to be like, yep, that's okay. It's normal.
It's just because we both have deep minds. Like,
Yeah.
there's some people that are, like, so good at, like, I don't know, being in their joy, and, like, I one day, like, we hit the highs of highs, but we also know the lows of lows.
It's an interesting thing having this
Like, those people.
having the intense mind because most of the time from the outside we have different energetic signatures though. I feel like we're both really
Yeah.
goofy and fun together, but I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like mine is a little bit more outward, like if we were to go into a room, and yours is more like inward. Does that make any sense? Black
Yeah.
cat. I don't think
Yes.
I'm golden retriever. I think I'm like somewhere in the middle.
No, you're, like, the dark feminine, like
Yeah.
but, like, you have that Leo rising where you do like to
I
be the
think
center of attention when you're, like, in, like, the room where I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna watch you guys and observe, and then I'm gonna have my Leo rising friends go make my friends for me so I don't have to do that."
like there's so much fun, but the high performer brain, it's so funny because not many people would understand unless you are that way, which you guys probably are. Welcome to the podcast. Is that like the mind can also get intense and overthink things and like constantly want to process and go down rabbit holes and all of that at the same time. It's like the extent to which you are light in the world is also the extent to which you have been to the dark side, or that your mind can easily go to that place sometimes. And to witness you through all of that molding and shifting and changing with an intense mind is really cool.
Yeah, it's
Proud of you.
so cool. I love it. Just kidding, I
Yeah.
do love it. I think it's just the turbocharged. Again, me and you, we'd make the running joke, like, I can't wait to get to the end of my life to be like, "God, what?"
What?
Like, why did we have to give me all the things? Like, I'm just whatever. But I mean, at the conference, they did say something that like brought light to it, and I know this, where it's like when you're called to something big, you're gonna be continually tested, and that's something I've known my whole life. So like, I sit here and I'm like, okay, there's something big, like
Lifetime. That's just big in and of itself. It's like warrior
exactly.
training, you know, in this lifetime, which I think is a really beautiful thing to witness your spirit continually find your strength in that versus collapsing into victim, because it could be so easy to do that.
Oh yeah, that was my 20s.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun there. No, it wasn't. It was
You've
horrible.
done so well. Wait, at
It
this
was,
point, have you guys, like, at the time that this podcast is going out, have you guys announced the gender?
no, I don't know if we're going to. That's
Okay.
something we haven't discussed yet. But I mean, yes, at the recording of this, we do know what we're having. I feel like we will announce it, but we might wait until like baby shower time
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay,
and
never
do
mind.
it
Then I won't ask
then.
any more questions in that realm.
Yeah. I'm
Stay
like, I just
tuned for
want to
more.
keep like little things of my little babycito, you know?
I'm so excited. Like, I just can't wait. I wish I lived closer to a Target, but that would not be good for anyone. I cannot wait to go to the aisle of Target and go to the baby aisle and finally
Zara.
baby Zara. Oh my God, I
Baby
was just
Zara.
thinking when we go to Spain this summer, you best believe baby Zara. Oh,
Yes.
I want to
Yeah.
wear baby
Literally,
Zara clothes.
Eddie's mom, she was like announcing to certain people in his family, and she was like the cutest little outfits. She was doing it for them. And she's like, do you like that? She's like, because I'm going to come with a whole bunch of that. And I was like, I'm obsessed. Please bring it. Like, I'm going to have the cutest, obviously, I'm going to have the cutest baby. It's going to be the best branded object. I just call my baby a branded object. But it's going to be so cute. It's gonna be cute. But also, like, it's going to be a Leo. So it has to be camera ready at all times.
What if it's plot twist, not a Leo?
Did you not see the ultrasound? As soon as the camera came out, it was like, "Hey, I'm here." And it's like, that makes sense. That fits for who your parents are.
On Laura's ultrasound, if you guys aren't watching video, which what are you doing if you're not watching video on Spotify?
Yeah.
She's like, her baby was waving.
Literally
Yeah.
smiling at the camera. Like, first off, they were doing backflips, like going like, some babies don't move. Nope, mine was tap dancing, moving all over. And
He's
the
so
ultrasound
hyperactive.
tech, the ultrasound tech was like, "Oh, your poor bladder." And I literally was sitting there going, "What do you mean I just peed?" And she goes, "Wait for it." And like 2 minutes later, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I have to pee so bad because this kid is just tap dancing on my bladder
That's
and
so
moving around."
wild.
And then as soon as she did the above ultrasound, the camera's on top of them and they just roll and then wave at the camera. And I'm like, "You're such a Leo." And I don't even have any caffeine. I've eliminated all caffeine since I found out I was pregnant. Hardly any sugar. I'm like, "So this is just your energy." Like, this is just
Pure, straight from the source.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited for you guys to like see the little beautiful blessing that they are and like the energy that they actually do have, because we can speculate.
Yeah.
But like I cannot wait. Oh my God. I can't wait to see their little personality come to life and like what parts of you and what parts of Eddie that they get. And like, are they gonna be hyperactive and like, or are they gonna be like actually more chill than you're comfortable with? Like Nolan and I play that
That's what
game
I'm like,
all
that
the
would be like
time.
the wildest lesson for like two
Yeah.
hyperactive ADHD, like high performers. Imagine our baby being like, "I love to just be alone and read books
And draw.
and draw." And I'd be like, "That's fine. My projector loves that. Let's do it." Like, your father might throw you outside.
Nolan and I laugh all the time about that. We're like, we're gonna have 2 athletic kids, and then we're like, no, what if we just have kids who do not like sports, don't like to be active?
They're like that weird, like, not weird, but like they're like they can't catch a ball for the life of them. And you're like, "This is gonna be fun for you in school. Got it. We're gonna just make you super, I don't know, smart."
God, what a journey of parenthood. It's like, because I've seen you as having a baby, but the reality is like you're having 18 years worth of life lessons and experience. Like it's not going to
rest
end.
of life. The rest of life. Like, that's the thing where I'm like, this is a tattoo on my forehead. Like, it's like my dad keeps reminding me where he's just like, it's in my aunt. We were like on a little family call yesterday, and they're both like, it's the hardest and best job you're going to have in your entire life. And it just doesn't go away because then they become adults and then they need you all the time because now they're adults and they have all the questions. And then you're a grandparent and then it just keeps going. And I'm like, honestly, my soul is like, yeah, that's kind of why we're here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm excited for the parenting part. Like, this whole pregnancy thing, my aunt was telling me yesterday, she's like, enjoy it because that's the easy part. And I was like, but it's this weird gray area that I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't do what I normally do and I can't do what I know I'm going to be doing. So I'm just like sitting here getting fat and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I literally just eat snacks and sleep and
Yeah. Like, I feel like you're going to thrive once you have the child and
yeah.
it's like go time. Like, you thrive when it's go time.
Yes.
I feel like that's
Maximum.
it. Yeah. And like in
Which is
this
funny
in
'cause I have
between.
0 fire in my chart. 0.
I don't know. Maybe it's also like the athlete within you. I
Yeah,
usually will
the
attribute like
trauma.
that too. But I feel like you're going to thrive in that. But you know what? A funny question that came into my mind. How do you think our friendship will shift once you have a baby?
Ooh.
Yeah, right? Because also I am witnessing you. You know how we've talked before where it's like you're in a season and then the season shifts, like you become
Yeah.
engaged, you get married, you move someplace, and you look back at the past season, you're like, I didn't even realize like the gifts of that season while I was in it. Even
Yeah.
if you were so grateful every single day, there just is a part of it where like it shifts and then nothing's the same and you're like, oh my God, it was never going to be the
Yeah.
same after that. I feel like that's true.
I
Also about
do. I mean,
friendship.
it's gonna be different because it's like we're not gonna be able to have like just us time without like
I've
very
noticed.
structured, like making sure hubbies can then not have their time because they're friends now and they like to hang out. So it's gonna be like, okay, so who gets the baby so the other one can be
Yeah.
weird and go do their thing. And so I think that will change things. But I don't think, but because we're also in the same season, like we're both engaged, we're both
Yeah,
building businesses with our men, we're both in that season, and I think that's also a
totally.
huge tie because that's my other baby. You know, like I still have to plan a wedding in Spain. I still have to do the thing. Like we're still on that path together, and
Yeah.
it's like I think probably by the time I'm having my second, you'll be having your first anyway. So it's like
Yeah.
I do think the timelines are paralleled.
They are. And I
Yeah,
don't the only thing I've noticed ever with friends who have gotten pregnant where I've known them before and then I've known them like in the beginning stages of having a baby, having a toddlers, et cetera, is that is the case where it's like if we were to meet up and you were to have your baby, like there's a baby there.
yeah.
Thank goodness I love children. I'm gonna be like, Lauren, get out.
You'd be like,
Your
can't you
baby.
just like hang out? Can't it just like watch itself? And I'd be like, no.
I love babies. So it's never been an issue for me and my friendships because I love like witnessing them as moms. But there is that thing where it's like there's a part of your brain that's always in another place
Yeah.
versus like where we get to really drop in and be with each
Yeah.
other. And I think that shifts throughout time. You know, there's always.
But this is the thing where like at the conference, like being with Shosh, where like her and
Yeah.
Christian, it's like they've really kept their life. Like it's been hard. Like this time she was like, no, I miss him so much. And like being the typical mom versus last time when I saw her, she's like, no, I don't miss him. I'm like, what? Just, like,
I love that.
this is so new that she was just like,
Yeah.
I think it's because the NICU, like I'm just used to him not being there. Whereas like this time she's like used to being a mom.
Yeah.
And but she was talking about, she's like, yeah, like 4 days is a lot, but like I get to just be with my fiance and I get to just be doing my life things. And I feel like that's going to be when we can find, I think it'll be more so in Spain, but when we can, because we'll be with Eddie's family, like people we trust to take care of our baby, I think I'll be able, like, I don't want to give up. I don't want to just become baby like how my brother is, like everything is his kids now and I love that for him and what have you, but I'm like, I don't like my baby's gonna come with me, like it's that or like I'm still having my life, like my individuality and my independence is really important to me. um I say that now though, I
Yeah,
could
I know.
then
I'm gonna
become
be
like
so
I
curious.
could then become Mel Wells where like my kids everywhere with me, like I have no idea. No
No, I
idea.
agree. We actually have no idea. And like, I'm so here for the entire, obviously, I'm not going anywhere and you're not going anywhere. And I think that's the beautiful thing is
Yeah,
that we get
you're
to
also
witness
tattooed on my forehead.
each other.
How are you? Stop talking about me. How are
No,
you? Stop it.
no, I love this because also like how my brain works, as you know, is in chapters. And I'm like, let's
Yeah,
like squeeze all these different parts out about like you and
yeah,
what's going on within your life because it is something that's so deserving of time and attention. Because we've talked like all throughout this entire thing, but I don't think we've like recapped. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And like had space, which is why I love this podcast, like to have space to actually like ask each other the deeper questions about
yeah.
everything. And so I'm excited to see what actually happens. Your baby's gonna be like, anything you thought.
It's that, but that's how it is. Where it's like I can speculate and do these things, and it's like I think that's also why I'm not prepping as much because I've heard
Yeah.
enough stories where it's like nothing goes as planned, and I was like,
No.
the thing I've been raised on with, thankfully, my father. He's like, you didn't choose your kids. Like he will say to me all the time, he's like, it's not my job. Not my job to raise you, but like you're here to give me my biggest life lesson. That's why you chose me. And
Yeah.
like he has raised me in that, and that's why we have so much tension. Uh that we continually work through. Um and so that's kind of where I'm at, where I'm like, I'm just again preparing my body the best I can because it's gonna be the hardest marathon I ever run in my life. But I'm just open to receive what the lesson is. Like that's all I am, where it's like I know that's going to be my parenting style where I'm going to be like, you teach me. Like, I'm going to guide you. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to do what I do because one, I'm a coach and also like a natural born mother, but like that part of me. But at the same time, like, I'm just so curious to see how much this is going to be pushing into the version of me God wants me to be, because otherwise this wouldn't have happened. Like, it's not
I'm
like we were
so
planning
excited.
it. It's not like any of this. Like, our life has just been on turbo speed the last, like, y'all, Eddie and I haven't even known each other for a year.
It's okay.
It's wild. We just moved into our house. We're married. We have this baby coming, and it's like, whoa, it's here. And it's just kind of like going through the waves. And it's just like, so that's when I'm like, you can't not say that's from God. And it's something I've been knowing in my soul for the longest time. Like, this is how life is going to be. And this is, you know, I knew it's going to be, you've known this. I'm like, it's going to be fast. It's going to be turbocharged. I don't know. Like, this is just how things works. I know as soon as I met my person, it's just going to be like beep, beep, bop. But like,
Yeah.
so it's not up for me to be like, this is my plan. I'm like, every time I've had a plan, God laughs at me, laughs. And it's like, actually, we're going to pivot you, shake it up a bit, and give you like the life lesson you need to become the version of
Yeah.
I need
That's
you to
what I'm
be. And I'm like,
excited. Like, what is the plot
yeah,
twist of this next season? Because we
what's
can
the plot twist? Yeah.
yeah, like what is that? What is the lesson? And maybe it's gentle too. Like maybe it is something where it's like, ah, like every day you're learning something new instead of like being jolted awake by some
But I
crazy
think
massive
that's what
lesson.
motherhood is gonna be. Like,
Yeah.
I think motherhood is gonna actually be the soft to my savage.
Yeah.
It's just I've said this, and I think we have a podcast on this where I was like, I feel like when I turn 33 is when I'm gonna have a baby and when I'm gonna become a millionaire, and life is just gonna get easier. I can't tell you. And lo and behold, I come into 32 and I'm having a baby like a month and a half before I turn 33.
It's crazy.
And I'm like,
It's so crazy.
so I will be a mom. Like I told you, like I can't explain it. And so I really do think that season is just how soft and how taken care of and how,
Ah,
things like that, while also being insanely rich and like doing the things I've known I'm called to do, and just kind of seeing where like our relationship flows into and how this all like it's again like it's really hard for me because I'm being pushed into my feminine. It's really hard for Eddie
mhm.
to be pushed into his masculine even further and like taking on more responsibility. And so like to see where our relationship dynamic is going to go and like focusing on that on top of, being parents, it's really interesting.
It's a ride. I always, and you know this, but I feel like whenever I have a friend going through something really big, I'm like, I'm so excited for you. Like, I really am
Yeah.
just like, so I can't wait to see because I think there will be a softness that just you couldn't have
Yeah.
ever conjured up otherwise. I think that's just true. I know I will go through that once I have a baby because that was like ingrained in my like babies were like the only toy I played with. Like I just wanted to be a mom from the
Yeah.
time that I was 2 years old. Like I
Excited
just wanted to
for
be a
you.
mom. And I lost touch with that a little bit, like going through business and entrepreneurship and everything. And I'm like starting to feel it again. But I know that once we come to that season of our life, there is just going to be like a return to self unlike anything I could ever fabricate within my life or create the circumstances for. It's like there is just something that happens. And I'm so excited to get to witness that in you because I think it's going to feel so, so good for you. And like, supported
Yeah.
and
Because you also, just like
loving.
we were talking about the other day, we're like, you hit 30, you give less fucks.
Yeah.
You have 40, you give less fucks. You become a mother, you really don't give a fuck. Like
Yeah.
I have realized that even just in pregnancy. I'm like, I just have
Less fucks.
nope. I got less fucks to give about so many things that I'm just like, you realize I have to push a head out of my vagina, right? Like that. Nothing compares. I'm sorry, nothing compares. I'm like,
Nothing's that big of a deal.
I mean, it's not even the head, it's the shoulders. Like I'm like, oh, it gets wider after that, guys. Like it's terrifying.
Just head. Then after the
The head,
shoulders, you're like
the head
golden.
swooshes at least, you know? And it's like,
Knowing you, your baby's gonna have massive shoulders.
have you seen my husband? Like it's already like then we go to our ultrasound, they're like, they're
Oh my
growing big. And I was like, love that for me. I didn't expect anything less. But yes, I'm excited to see how all of it is just like, because I've already seen like how I like this version of me so much. So I'm like, I'm just very excited to see the next iteration of it that I'm like, I'm gonna love her even more. Like this is gonna be so fun.
Okay, well, my last question, I mean, there's so many. My last question, pregnancy wise, is you guys know the gender.
Yeah.
How do you feel now knowing? Like, what was your
The
reaction? I got to
cutest,
see it, but
the cutest thing, that video
yeah,
just made me fall in love with my man even more. Like
they took a
the
video of
look
the
in
reveal.
the look, like him just like me, like that connection, that peace, everything. I'm like, I can't even, it's just like landed more.
Yeah.
Like it's like a thing where like, oh, there's an identity to this. And something that I'm really excited for is like the 6-month mark, because that's when, according to spirit baby books and stuff, like that's when the spirit comes into the baby. And
Wow.
so right now it's just like this like, you know, fetus growing like its limbs and things like that. And like I can see some stuff, but I'm excited for like the soul merger with it. But yeah, it just makes it more real. Makes
Yay.
it more real. And it's just, plus now I get to go shopping.
Yeah, right. It was so sweet seeing that video and just also how happy and like in love you guys looked. And
Yeah.
it's really, really
Yeah, we're in a really, I mean, it's been rough. We will do a podcast episode on us. It's
been a
been a
journey.
journey with him and I, but like this season right now is hands down my favorite. And it's just like, instead of fighting God's rules for us, we're really just stepping into them. And it's been like that. Like we've been so resistant because we're two headstrong human beings. Like we're very strong and like I know my ways. Like, and we're very passionate and like this type of thing. And so now to be in the moment of just like true surrender on both ends and to assume the identities that God is calling us into, it's my favorite season for us. And then having this little, which I think is a huge reason why God chose us to be this baby's parents, is like,
Yeah.
it's putting us into our assignments even deeper.
I'm gonna cry. I love that so much
Yeah.
because I was just typing this out the other day where it's like, once you surrender to a plan so much greater than your own, your ego is going to have a shit fit. It's going to go kicking and screaming. It's going to come out in like really uncomfortable ways, especially if you're headstrong. I feel like it would be different like if we were the type who's like fluid and flowy and like
No, I'm a box. I'm a box made out of complete concrete.
who thinks that they're always right. Like it's
Yes.
like it's just
Yes.
the reality, right? Like we're working on it every day. But when you think that, especially in relationship, I think that's where that side just comes out more because there's that push pull between like surrender. Your ego will have a shit fit, but then once you get through that season, prepare for all of the miracles because that's when it's like like that full release. But you gotta love yourself through all of the shit hitting the fan.
Learning. Like anyone going through that, like you're learning. Like you're literally, that's something like I will constantly say to us. It's like we don't know each other and we're learning. And I'm gonna say that
Yeah.
even when we're married for 50 years. Like I don't know you. I don't know you.
Isn't that
Like
so fun though?
exactly. And it's like I don't want to pretend like how I did, where it's like to protect myself, I have to pretend like I know everything about you so that I can call you predictable and
You
all the kind
actually
of things. And it's
don't.
like actually I have no idea who you are, because every single day, especially because we're both in this world, we're different human beings constantly developing ourselves. So I have no clue who you are. So I'm gonna sit here and be like, how can I best serve you today versus how can I protect me today? Like, it's
Love
like,
that.
how can I continually revisit that? And it's hard because I was talking with him the other day where a big lesson for the two of us that I'm witnessing and right now is he's a huge overgiver and I'm a little selfish because
Mhm.
I have very strong boundaries because I used to be that way. And I'm realizing I can learn so much from him because of how much he gives, and he can learn so much from me because of how strong my boundaries are. And I think this is where a huge mismatch was. And during pregnancy, like just like you just have to shift a little bit more and like, being able to give where I can, even on the days when I'm like,
Yeah.
no, but I finally feel good today. I want to give to myself. And it's like, no, I finally feel good today. Let me now give to my husband because he's been overcompensating for everything I've been doing. Like looking at things in that way and like how can we learn from each other versus trying to like mold the other and like be
Yeah.
triggered by the other and move through that.
I love that. It is cool witnessing that. Like we're in a similar season where I, in the past, have been more protective over my own needs, and Nolan is less protective over his own needs.
Yeah.
And more, he's like such a giver. And so I say,
That's
like,
like a nicer way of saying it than how I like you can give her I'm selfish. It's fine.
it's so funny because I thought that wasn't a nice way of saying it. But, like he's also such a giver. And I think obviously, like, opposites kind of do attract and
Yeah.
does, sometimes there is that dynamic. And he's been such a good lesson in what it's like to give unconditionally to someone else and to a partner. And I've been a good lesson for him of like, hey, you don't need to overgive. Like he
Yeah.
like overpays everyone, like overgives. And it's something that I absolutely love about him. But there's like I learned so much from it, but there's always a line and we learn so much from each other, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so stoked.
Yes. Now it's
How are
fine.
you? How are you?
I'm good. It's so funny because I'm walking through this pattern where it's like, and where I'm like, nothing can compare. Laura's pregnant. So therefore, anything that I have to share is not actually like, we can just focus on you.
No.
And I've done that though in so many of my friendships. And it is something that I am now like hyper aware of because, one of my intentions this year was to be more open. And I think I've always been open, but I haven't always taken up space. That there's a difference.
Yeah.
I'm always an open book. If anyone asks me any questions, always an open book, but I don't always feel comfortable taking up space. I'm way more comfortable just holding the space, especially then when I have friends because I'm an empath,
Yeah.
especially then when I have friends who I know are holding a lot and I know are going through a whole bunch. I'm like, no, like what I'm going through is pales in comparison, or like what I'm noticing pales in comparison. But we're rewriting that. So yes, I will answer the question. Um, how am I? I'm good. I am so happy. We've both made announcements this week. A
Yes.
little different, but similar.
And
Where Nolan and I announced that we are in partnership at Deep River Jewelry, and we are business partners, lovers. We live together. We do all of the things together, as well as, of course, having my own business, and he has his own side of the business as well. And we made that announcement, and there's just something about declaring it, even though it's been in the works for months. This, like most anyone who's in our world, like knows that. But making the declaration, there's something about it that was so powerful for me to be like, like, okay,
Mhm.
like I can move forward with my brand because before, and you have felt this totally, we talked about this all the time. Before, I felt like there was this part of myself that I wasn't fully sharing. So I would share like glimpses of it, and I would know that I'm going through a transformation of how I see the world and what my business looks like and the topics that I bring in here and there. But I wasn't fully like in it, like fully embodied in it, because there was a part of me that hadn't yet declared it. And that's, I
Yeah.
think, the blessing that social media can sometimes be, is like there is a power in being seen when you say something. Because since that moment, can I tell you the creativity that has come through me? Like and you've known this, where I said, like, come March, there's going to be a shift within my business. And I've just known that intuitively with the timing wise. But I really am starting to feel it, of utilizing basically everything that I'm learning in the luxury jewelry brand building space and bringing it into my own brand as well. And like the creativity that has come from just fully stepping in and embodying the truth of what our life is right now has been such a huge blessing. Such a
I
huge
love it.
blessing.
I love
And
it.
like
And
has
it
also brought us deeper into teamwork for sure.
yeah, but it's a thing where like you've been I feel like bouncing around with this like coming out party for so long of like what's this gonna mean and what's this do and like the resistance and like he's known the whole
Yeah.
time you guys are gonna be working together. I've known that. It's like this whole thing, like you guys are paired in how beautifully your brains work side by side. And it's
Mhm.
like when you surrender into that, it's like the merger that again was
Surrender.
intended the whole yes, and the whole time, and now you actually get to claim the identity
Yeah.
versus like, no, I'm doing this, but like this is mine. And like
Right.
again, this stake in the ground of like this is mine and that's yours. And it's like, no, you're in partnership forever with this human.
Forever.
So like
Forever.
why try and do this is mine, this is yours. It's like this is
Literally.
ours. This is
Isn't it
ours.
so funny that my ego had such a time with it? And like I love it, and the timing of everything is always perfect. But I think this last trip where we went to Tucson, and in Tucson once a year there's a Tucson Gem Show, which is basically like the biggest convention in the United States for luxury gems and jewelry. And Nolan goes to it every single year, and I have gone with him the past few years as well. And there was something about going on that trip that it just made everything make a lot of sense of like, it's just who we are, and it's just what we're doing, because what we have seen, and I can't wait for this to continue to unfold and then to get to tell the story even more, but what we have seen in the time that we have fully surrendered, and me fully surrendered to teaming up, has been like 10x what we could have ever done on our own. And there is
Yeah.
like a momentum and a power behind it that has been so, it fascinates me every single day. Like I'm mind blown every single day, because there's still part of my ego that's like, what can I do if I were just on my own? Like, what could I
Yeah.
do if I were just still dedicating 100% of my time to just myself? And like, that's just starting to go completely out the window, because God is just showing me like, hey, when you follow this nudge, which I've always felt, I knew once I surrendered to it, it was going to elevate everything, and it was going to be better than I could have ever imagined. And
Yeah.
every single day I'm like, show me the miracles, because God is like, no, actually, when you surrender to this, and you are like, for us, it's being in the most divine form of creation and partnership, just like having a baby is, just
Mhm.
like committing yourself to someone is. You know, it's like, I think most of the time people wait to have a baby to be in creation with their partner, and then they feel it like, oh my God, I can't believe we're creating a life together. But it's so funny in witnessing Nolan and I team up, and just our overlap, and how we get to literally create in the world. It's another form of that like divine creation together. And I
Yeah.
wake up every single day being like, I don't know how I found him. I don't know how we found each other at all, because it just feels like this soul connection where we are meant to be interwoven and to create together. And so it's
Mhm.
ultimately brought us together in a way that it blows my mind every day. It truly does. And of course, there's like hard moments, like we're learning how to communicate with each other in like a business setting, and then in a personal setting. And we have our moments, but like we're so forgiving, because we're like, we don't know. There's no blueprint for this.
Yeah.
Like I try and Google like who are like husband wife partners in business. Like you can't find it.
Yeah.
You know, there's some of it. That's why like we love Elena Cardone right now, because she does talk about that side of what it's like to be in partnership, but it's a little bit of a different lens, because it was more so around the family. Like for us, Nolan and I are just like we're in teamwork every day
Yeah.
already. But it's been a ride.
Yeah,
It's
I was
been
just
a
gonna ask
ride.
how is the relationship dynamic changed?
You know what? This is what's so wild, Laura. And I can't wait to share more about this. And I will always preface this by saying, talk to me in 6 months, because we're not that far into it.
Yeah.
But like everything is better. And he's
Yeah.
someone where it's like, and it sounds so cheesy to say, but truly, I didn't realize that it could just continue getting better. And to your point, it's like every single day we get to learn more about each other. So I feel like I'm constantly falling in love with another side of him, because also he's a Scorpio, so doesn't show all his cards all at once. 6 years in. But like we have a deeper level of respect for one another,
Mm.
because what he does is never something that I could do, and what I do is never something that he could do. So we're both like, we get more chances to be in awe of one another, and we
Yeah.
get more chances to communicate. Otherwise, before we'd spend, you know, eight, you know, there's really never an off switch, but like 8 hours a day being in our own worlds, not really having any overlap aside from like a hug because we both work from home, or like seeing each other, having lunch together and things like that. There wasn't as much overlap, but now we get to test our communication in different terrains almost. And it's this fun challenge of like, can we communicate here? And then can we turn it off? Because we both work from home. It's not like we
Yeah.
commute and then we come back home, like, and that's our time to like cool off and come back home and then be in our relationship. But we have to learn different ways of like, how can we be in our romance and then be in partnership? And it's like, it's made everything better. It's made our
I
sex
love that.
life better. And I didn't
Yeah.
think I could get to be honest. It's made our communication better. Like, it's made our dates better. Like, all of it. And we're also the type where like, we don't have like a hard cutoff. Like, we're not like at 7 p.m. we stop talking about business. Like, again, talk
Yeah.
to me in 6 months. Who knows? Maybe we'll have implemented that. But because we love what we do so much, it's just like we read the room. Like, he's like, if I'm like, oh, I just can't take anymore, or if he's like, oh, I just don't want to talk about it, then we're like, okay, cool. But otherwise, it's
Yeah.
just kind of free flowing. So I would say
Do
it's just been
do you
fun.
feel like it also, like, deepened your commitment because you've now it's a thing that I've noticed in your relationship and your pattern together is the more that you deepen into him, the relationship in itself, like, deepens
Yeah,
because he's, like, all in, all been in, all in since he saw you. Like, it's like that type of thing, and he's just, like, sitting here, like, the more that you commit, the more and, like, this is a big thing, it's like, "Oh, we're committing to our future, we're
yeah,
committing to the long-term vision beyond just marriage." Like, this is the next level
it's fun.
commitment. This is another part of it. You could have done it before or after, whatever, but it's like, this is another step to actually surrendering this independent identity, not even so fully surrendering it completely, but just like merging
To
it to
me, yeah,
interdependence. Yeah.
to union. And I always
Yeah.
say there was this beautiful moment when I got to watch one of my friends get married, and she got married in a church. And there was one part of the entire service that really stuck out to me and brought tears to my eyes on that day. And it was when priest, the father, I don't know who it was, but when the person who was running the service was like, he was like, now is the time where two become one and you
Hmm.
merge. And I was like, I've never looked at marriage. I don't know why. And I think it's just because I didn't really think we weren't engaged at that point. I hadn't really thought too much about it. And it was so beautiful. And I was like, huh, interesting. And it just impacted me in that moment. I didn't do anything with it. But then when we got engaged, there was just like all of these shifts around what does it look like to build together, to be one in
Hmm.
creation. And that was, I think, the first step was the engagement and like really softening into that commitment, especially coming from divorced parents. Like, I've had my journey with the surrender into that unity. And is it actually possible? Like, all these things. And he's never given me a reason not to believe it. But there's layers to it for me.
Yeah.
And now I think being in business, well, first of all, like, there's the financial side of it where I'm like, like we're building something together. It's tricky to separate.
Yeah.
But and I love that, though, to be completely honest, because it is the deepening. It's as if we were having a kid together. We're like in
Yeah.
that merging of creation together, where like
Yeah.
you are in this, where it's like you have both feet in. You're not going back.
You
You're like,
literally,
I'm just
like, no
here.
matter what fight you get in, you're like, I am
Yeah,
forever tied to you.
forever.
So I might as well figure this out, I guess.
Because I think there's something that's so safe about that and so
Yeah.
beautiful about that, especially like I've
And
had an
mature. Like, it's a
yeah,
maturing. Like,
it is.
it's yeah.
That's exactly what it is it's a maturing from this season of kind of being like, I get to do what I want, when I want, whatever, into like, I'm here. Of course, we always have free will and choice, no matter
Yeah.
what, always. That's what keeps it interesting, because we're choosing every day. But at the same time, it's like I've committed to be here. And therefore, like, I'm committed to walking through anything that comes up along the way for myself, for you, for us, like all of it together. I think in the declaration too, and in us being in partnership, it's like, we're in it. I get
Yeah.
to work through any parts of my ego that arise along the way, any parts of my ego that say, oh, well, now that you're doing this, you can't do it this way, or you've done this, but now you're doing this, and then you can't do it like this. Like, all of that goes out the window, and we just get to surrender to creation in the container of what is,
Yeah.
and more creation. And I think it's been so cool. And he also is like such a good reflector of my genius. Like, we have that now, where we were having this conversation the other day, Whereas like it's harder for two people to get off track than it is for one person to get off track. So if
Mm,
you look in the context of business, it would be hard for both of us to be outside of our hearts and outside of our integrity, because we have to be like on some shit for like neither of us to wake up and check ourselves or something like that. But when
yeah,
you're in your own lane just completely by yourself, your mind can play tricks on you. So it can be easier to have that momentary lapse and be outside of your heart or outside of your integrity or outside of your intention or your long-term goal, just because it's you and you're the one checking yourself. And so now it's like moving in tandem. There is something where like the energetic line is so clear, the intention is so clear, the end term goal is so clear, which I think is adding to the acceleration. So we'll see what happens.
I'm
It's all an
so
experiment.
excited. I mean, that's life. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Well,
needless to say, I'm learning a lot in this lifetime.
yeah.
And now I'm just excited. I'm just really excited. I think I've fought it for so long and I'm just so
That's what I was just about to say. I'm like, I'm just proud of you because it's been something since we've been friends, this like merging and surrendering and like
yeah.
being and deepening into commitment, like deepening into that to trust, oh, this is that, and being able to solidify that. And this is also something for yourself where like we've been back and forth of like, well, what is the next big thing for Fully Alive? Like, what is the next thing? And it's like this. And then who knows, like, what comes from this? Like, it's like that next iteration. And it's fun to see because it's actually happening
Yeah.
versus like just a discussion we're having and masterminding about. It's like, no, it's in the process of unfolding. And I think that's the coolest thing ever.
It's so interesting, especially because I think for a long time I saw like what I do in my work and what Nolan does is completely separate. And you're like, no, there's a bridge. And anyone could tell me there's a bridge, right? But it's like when
Yeah.
you're in the mode of seeing it as separate, I see this all the time with clients where I'm like, here's the bridge. And they're like, it still feels fragmented. And it's like when you're in that season of seeing, well, what I do is separate from this, it feels fragmented. Where I was like, how can I bring what I'm doing over there into my brand over here? Like it felt fragmented. So I felt a little bit stifled in my creativity. And now I feel like I'm in the season where there's such a direct correlation.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to play because it's like believe it or not, I'm not a jewelry nerd. I'm really not. I love craftsmanship. I absolutely adore. I love educating people on actually in like investments for sure when it comes to jewelry instead of fast fashion. And I love craftsmanship. I think it's beautiful to witness someone create something just completely out of basically thin air, out of raw materials that means something for someone. That's what I love. But I'm not like sitting there designing that's
Yeah.
not necessarily my forte. I'm in it because we love building a business together. Like it's so beautiful, and to get to impact people and bring things that really mean something to them, like seeing the ring on your finger and how much that means
Amen.
to you. Like it's so beautiful. I love that. But so much of it is like is the business side of things that I find to be very intriguing. Is like how do we bring that message into
Yeah.
market?
But that's your creation side. Like
Exactly.
that's your
That's
craftsmanship. Like we're
that's
mostly like creatives' brains, like don't work in that way. They have the vision, they have the art, they have the pieces. And it's like, and what I'm seeing cool with you is how, your branding side is then getting played in your craftsmanship. And like you're playing with these
exactly.
different storytelling tools and like you're not thinking as much about it and you're just like putting it out there. And like I think it's just so cool to see that side of you come out now too.
Me too. Well, I'll always and that's what I think I realized in what I was saying around like I've learned that I will always have something that is my own. Like I'll always have something that brings me fulfillment. I will
Yeah.
always have something that allows me to impact in the way that feels really, really true and clear for myself. And that would never go anywhere. And so now it's
Yeah.
fun to just like merge the worlds that they are one. They really are. Because
Yeah.
everything I learn in one, I get to bring in another, and what I learn in one, I get to bring in the other. Like it's very cool. So we'll see what happens next.
I love it. What do you feel like your biggest lesson is?
Ooh. Right now,
Yeah.
in this moment,
Yeah.
with business.
In this moment.
In this moment, there's two. One is like the surface level of that felt really uncomfortable to talk for that long.
We're training her to talk about herself more. It's fun. It's a fun process.
We love it. I love the vulnerability hangover birth, although I'm not like sharing anything groundbreaking, but um that's on the surface. That's my biggest lesson right now is like what it's like to take up space. Um Aside from that, my biggest lesson right now, there's so many. I feel like there's three going on at once. Is also what it's like to like give. This goes back to what we were saying before, what it's like to give even when I have a lot on my plate, because I think that that will never change. So what is it like to stretch your capacity to hold space to give to other people in a way that means a lot to them? Because my love language is not theirs. That's a big one. Didn't touch on anything related to that, but that's a big one. And then really just the surrender. I think we're both kind of course, always on similar wavelengths, but different contexts, is
Yeah.
the surrender into what is this next identity for us, and how can that then get to shift how we create in the world.
I
What
love
about
that.
you?
I feel like same. Like that's why when you asked me the question, like, how do you see our relationship shifting? That was the word that I was looking for. It's like you and I, weirdly enough, we have vastly different lives, but it's the same lesson.
It always
It's
is.
always the same lesson, just different
It's like we'll go away
part.
for a week and then come back and we're like, I'm learning this. And you're like, wait, what? I'm learning that
Literally
too.
same, but just like in a different context, but like same lesson. And so, yeah, mine is just, especially coming into pregnancy and motherhood and being a wife, like it's all asking me to give when I have been built to survive. Like that's just been where I'm at. And to be able to go, oh, it's okay now because I have enough. I sourced enough for me. I have like, I'm good. I understood that. I can do it on my own, but I don't need to survive anymore, which means I can give a lot. I have a capacity to give. I have to. I want to. It makes me feel so good. And so how can I give more? And also how can I surrender to the moment and compromise? Compromise is a big thing I'm working on. Like building a home with someone, like different styles, different textures, different ways that we communicate, the different way that we see stuff, the different way that we want to parent. Like I'm not right, and that's what I have to keep reminding myself
Oh,
with is I am not right. This is just what I've known for the last 32 years, but that doesn't mean it's right. Again, I've just had to survive. And so what now when I am safe and have literally every single thing that I've ever wanted, can I trust it? And can I compromise to keep it?
yeah.
And so I just have to keep working and surrendering and working and surrendering and going through that process.
Oh, I love that. Compromise is so interesting. And I think there's such a lesson in the word compromise, because especially to people who have been my way, my way or the highway sort of
Yeah.
people throughout their life, like that compromise is so stretchy. And also when I hear you say it, I'm like, it's funny when it is compromise, because ultimately I do feel like it's giving you still a lesson. Like it's giving you something in that compromise. So it's never
Oh, yeah.
actually a
The more
whatever
I
we think is
compromise, the more love
compromise.
I get. Like, the
Exactly.
more,
It's
like,
never
this
actually
is
a
the
compromise.
one thing I want the most. And so
Yeah,
it's like, why are you, like, you try to control to give yourself this false sense of love, this false sense of whatever.
exactly.
Whereas, like, if I can just sit here and compromise on something, I get the love that I'm ultimately seeking from control.
Right.
And
The
I'm
choice.
not perfect at this. It's just the current lesson in the current season, especially as we build a home together, being like, I want things to be this way. And it's like, I'm not right. Like, and like, I want to make a home for us, not a home for me. And it's just like, if I'm building something that's just mine, that actually makes me feel really uncomfortable now because I don't want that. I don't want it to be mine. I want it to be us. And then I get heartbroken by that, where it's like, how can I dance with this? And it's like the deepest form of like compromise, ego, surrender, and just being in that season.
I love that. It's like making space for someone else. And I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that though what kids also teach you? Is like you
The tap
think
dancer
you're
on my
right.
bladder.
Like you think you're right, but like
No,
your way of seeing things is not,
it's not
it's not
pure. A kid is
everything.
pure. So you have to sit here and be
Literally.
like, where are you right? Like, how can I see it your way? Like and like they will call you on it. That's what I'm excited for. When my kid has a personality and is like 5 and is like, that's not what you said. And I'll be like,
Yeah.
you're right.
Love
You
it.
are right. Like it's like that type of thing. It's just like, I'm gonna practice that with my husband now so I don't take it out on my 5-year-old later.
Right?
Like,
Literally, I think about that with Nolan, and I'm like,
yeah,
I also, it's funny, right? Because you're dealing with a grown man. So sometimes it can be easier to be like, no, but this, and this. When in
yeah,
actuality, you're still dealing with an inner child who
yeah,
has their own needs, desires, wants, and images of the world.
exactly. And it's so
Like
funny
to
because
mix
then,
these.
like, my brain wants to switch into mothering and I
Yes.
wanna coach. I wanna coach on it, and he'll reflect me. He's like, "I don't want to be coached by you. This
Yeah.
is just the way I see the world." And I'm like, "But it's so different." Like,
What? It's like you have to let the inner child create. It's like you wouldn't smack a crayon out of a kid's hand when
no.
they're 5 years old. I mean, if they're maybe like drawing on the wall, we
Yeah.
need to learn not
Even
to.
then,
But
I might just let him do it. Like, I might be like, "Run
seriously, like
wild."
what? What's the harm?
Literally. I'm like, "They have magic erasers now, it's fine." But, like, it's that thing where, like, I can notice being like, "Oh,
Yeah.
no, like, it has to be this way," and it's like, honestly, who said that it has to be this way and it has to go
Exactly.
this way? Like, even thinking about my desk, like, I was like, "Oh, my office, I do more live trainings, I do podcasts like this," and I'm, like, looking at it and I'm like, "Honestly, his office would look better in here." Like, it'd be like, I'm, like, sitting here, I'm like, "The baby's room gonna be in the bedroom anyways, like, I can mess around in here." Like, I'm just like, yeah, no, that wasn't right. That wasn't the right move, even though I was so defiant. I'm like, "I
Isn't
need
that
my space. This isn't
funny?
stuff." And I'm just like, "My bad." Like, that's all I can keep saying now because it's like I'm learning this and, like, it's one of our biggest things is like, "Can you stop controlling so much?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"What do you mean? I don't control. I'm surrendering so much." And it's like I keep catching myself now being like, "I control a lot, like, in order to protect myself."
Yeah.
But when I don't control, I get the outcome I ultimately wanted, which is deeper love with my husband.
Isn't that
That's
beautiful?
it. And, like, that's all this dance is, and I'm like, "Okay, we'll
Mm,
see. We'll
I
see how it
love
goes. Catch me in 6 months when we have more to
yeah.
this," but, like,
It's
that's the
like I
current
don't
season.
need to control to get my needs met. Like I don't need to control for love. And that's
It's
I
so
think
hard.
one of the greatest lessons ever. I mean, it's exactly what we're walking through too. It's like I don't need to control to get love. And in fact, when I do the opposite, I get more love. Woo! Look at that. Inner
And when I
child.
control, I get resented love. It's like,
You
I will
get
do it,
like
but I
the
don't want to.
toxic.
Yeah,
It's the toxic feminine of like, or like the
mother. It's the
yeah,
mother.
it's right. It's like
Not that mothers
I'll
are
take
toxic,
away
but we
love.
can control. Yeah, like, I can control you because
Yeah.
you're whatever. Like, it's just the "because I said so" mother, which was my
Yeah.
mother. Because I
Exactly.
said so, with no explanation, no understanding of anyone else's needs, wants, or desires, is not curious
But I
about
said
you at all. Rest her soul. But, like, it was just that kind of way. But it's like, that's not who I wanna be. I wanna figure
that.
out how do I compromise? How do I even the color schemes, how do I okay, let's compromise, let's blend, let's do the thing, and I'm like, I'm not good at it yet, but I'm really trying. I'm really, really trying.
Have I told you about so we like the last thing we'll say. I mean, decorating a home is a different thing. It is
It's
a
hard.
different animal.
It's
And
hard.
especially like the feminine in me, I'm also a Cancer. I like to nest. Nolan actually doesn't care too much about what our space looks like. He cares about what his workshop looks like, which is
Yeah.
fine. I'll let him be in there. But he was kind of like, yeah, do whatever you want. I'm like, no, I want this to be a co-creation of us both. Like, can you show me some images on Pinterest of what you would go for in your mind? This man straight up shows me photos of like the most immaculate or like just incredibly spectacular churches. And I'm like, do you realize gold, gilded,
'Cause
scrolled?
that's what he looks up for his artistry.
Exactly. I love the part of him where it's like, I want my house to inspire me. I'm like, love
Yeah.
that. But do you also recognize our house is built in 1770? It's a much different style. Like, our ceilings are not tall enough to handle this. So we're like, okay, how can we bring a little bit of gold
How
to
can
the
you blend it?
we are
Literally.
we are
And
blending
he's
it.
like "Can I put up my live relentless thing here and this there and then" and I go, "No." Like, I'm like and then I was like, "Fine, we can put up one photo, one."
What?
And it's just a photo of him. And I was like, "Who just has a photo of themselves in their living room?"
Love for you.
I was like,
God, man.
"Fine, as
Your
long
kids
as we
do.
don't put all of the other motivational things up." Like, I got one.
It's like
One
that's
one.
beauty. It's like, and also I see the beauty. It's like church. They're stunning images that Nolan was showing me. Absolutely breathtaking. But I'm like, our house just doesn't. This is the
It's not
feminine where it's
that.
like the style of our house doesn't quite match this
Not that.
style. So like, how can we
Yeah.
bring in elements to make sure that you feel heard? It's a whole thing. It's fun. I love
Oh,
it.
anyways,
Amazing.
that's
Any
okay.
last thoughts, words, comments, concerns?
No, I feel like we should do another one though.
I know.
I'm like, I'm not done yet. I have to
Wouldn't
get out a call.
I know you have to get on a call in 1 minute. Okay, we love you
Yeah,
guys.
in
Thank
1
you so
minute.
much for tuning in. I hope that you received something from this. And if you have, DM us on Instagram. We love hearing them because believe it or not, we love a two-way conversation, not just us talking at you
Literally.
guys. So we love it, and we can't wait to bring you more insides of our brain in hopes that it allows things to settle for you, normalize for you, or that you take something away from this. So love you guys. You can find me at Stephanie Elsterman, and
It's Laura Patricia Martin. ITS Laura Patricia Martin, because some people get confused on that.
are you gonna change that? Oh, this is the whole other topic.
No, because in Spain we don't take people's last names. So
Oh, definitely.
we hyphen names, but like you keep it yourself.
Oh, cool.
So also be Martin, but our baby will be Gomez del Casal. He'll get so mad at me for saying it that way. Gomez del Casal. I can't do
You're
it with my
working on
tongue.
it. It's
I
great.
know. Martin. So like mine would be
Martin.
hyphened. Martin. Martin, if we do it with his accent. Martin.
Oh, I love it. So love you guys. See you soon.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.